Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Raging Bull, and this movie is directed by Martin Scorsese. It came out in 1980, and it stars Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and I've never seen this movie, and I watched about 20 to 30 minutes of this movie before, and I just wasn't in the right mood, and I was like, this is good, but I want to be in the best mood possible, so like I can actually enjoy the film, and that's what I ultimately decided to do. So I shut it off and decided to wait until I had another chance to watch it, and I had a chance today, and I really love this movie, and I do think this is one of Martin Scorsese's best films, if not his best movie. What I really love about this movie are not just the performances, as you might expect, like Robert De Niro's really great in this movie with Joe Pesci and everyone else. Like, those two are the main ones that I'm familiar with, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And I really love the story in this movie. It's a boxing sports movie. This movie did kind of remind me of like Rocky and some other movies, but this movie felt like it was doing its own thing, which is why I didn't find it distracting. Instead, I found it a lot more engaging because it was telling its own story and being its own thing, and that's why it worked for me. And I love the boxing sequences in this movie. They're not very long, and they're over with in like a minute or two. But when you do get to them, like, it's really crazy at times, and there are points where it can get pretty brutal and chaotic, and I think this movie captures that very well, especially like in a movie that takes place mostly in the 40s. Like, that was probably just how it was back then. Really crazy, chaotic, and people were going nuts, especially in the first boxing match of the movie, which is like within the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I also love the title for the film, Raging Bull, and how that ties into the film. And there are points in this movie where it does make a bull sound effect, but I didn't really find it distracting because of the emotions that it was trying to convey. Like, it's only used like a couple times in the movie at points where our main character is like pretty angry and is like letting off some steam, and it makes sense, and I can forgive it for that reason. And this movie isn't always super serious. There are comedic moments, especially with Joe Pesci. Like, I thought he was really funny in the movie, and I really liked the dynamic between those main two. And I did buy them as brothers, and they were very entertaining to watch. And in this movie, there isn't really any wide shots, and I feel as though it doesn't take away anything from the movie, and instead it enhances the experience because of everything that it's communicating, and what we're being shown is just crazy, and like, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier and keeps building and building, and eventually you get a few moments where it releases, and even when that happens, it goes back to building up to something crazy, and that's more stuff that I loved, and it's always focusing on the characters, and you always get their perspective and why these characters feel justified in the way that they do. And when our main character is doing certain things, you may or may not agree with him, but you can understand why he's doing the things that he does, and he justifies it in his own mind. And he may not be a great character overall. You could say that he's pretty unlikable, but I feel like that's the point of the character, to understand this type of person can exist or does exist, and this movie is just using him as a tool to explore what he's capable of, and I like how this movie explores that, and I found it to be very interesting. And I love how De Niro's character just believes that everything is about him, and he's the most important thing in life, and what that ultimately does to him. And it's interesting, and Everything that it's going for feels earned for me. Nothing feels cheesy, like unintentionally cheesy, and it's always engaging for me. And I love the characters a lot. And there were a couple like tiny things that I wrote down in my notes while watching the movie, like one of the lines when he meets a girl that De Niro's character thinks is pretty, and he takes her to his apartment and shows her around, and he says, and I quote, "That's a bird." It was a bird. He's dead now, I think. And that was just a moment that, like, I'm writing that down because I've never heard anything like that before in a movie, and it was just a big standout moment for me. And also, it helped to add to the character and how he thinks, and it added to his character, in my opinion. And another thing that stood out to me as something that was noteworthy was like kissing bruises was a thing that happened in one scene, and I decided to write that down because that happened in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I was like, did Raiders of the Lost Ark take that from this movie? That was just something that I had to write down because those are the only two movies that I've seen where like kiss my boo boo. And my only real issue with the movie is just a tiny thing, and it happens in one of the boxing matches where De Niro knocks a guy down to the ground, and the footage is like sped up for no reason. And I was like, you didn't really need that, but that's really my only issue with the movie. And that's about all I have to say about Raging Bull. It was an amazing Scorsese movie. One of my favorites, if not my favorite. I'll have to revisit movies like The King of Comedy and The Last Temptation of Christ, but I'm pretty comfortable saying that this is one of his best, if not my favorite. So for now, I'm going to say it's my favorite out of everything that I've seen from him. I love it. I love the characters. I love the performances. And I like how the movie is shot in black and white, and I think that adds to the film. And just about every choice made in this movie is something that I love. So check this movie out whenever you get the chance, and with all that being said, I'm going to give Raging Bull a 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Raging Bull, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Silent Hill. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.